All right, so in this video, I am going to break down my top 5 book recommendations and kind of just a brief overview of what I got out of them and why, they are at the top of my mind. I didn't really do a whole lot of research before putting this together, to be honest. It's just stuff that I've taken away from these books that I have continued to apply and have had just a known lasting impact on me. So I figured that would be super, super valuable and things of, to help change perspective. So first, what are we going to cover? We're going to cover my top 5 books that I highly recommend. And if anyone asks me, this is where this is where I would point them. This is where I would direct them. And these are the books I constantly recommend to people to change and shift their perspective. Honestly, this is probably something that should be at the very beginning of the community while you're going through it. But definitely, I'm going to share why I believe this is worth it. So also remember, share this community. It's free. There's nothing to lose. If there's people in the world, if there's people that you know that you are friends with who can benefit from this, again, share. The more activity, the more people that we have in this community allows it to continue to grow, the more opportunities that we have to learn from other people involved and different mindsets. So we just wanted to put it together so everyone can grow and improve. And last but not least, follow us on social media. My name on Instagram is Dan Wiggum _ and obviously we have the Zach Fisher as well. So what's important? Readers are leaders. It is a statistic that over 90% of CEOs read a book a week, read 52 books a year. Now, is that 52 new books? Not necessarily. In my opinion, you should study books and you should have a good understanding of what that book offers. Don't just read it to get to the end. That is actually a philosophy that school has taught us, that we need to read a book to completion. But if you're not getting anything out of it, stop reading it. Just move on to another book. If you've gotten the point, there's a lot of books out there that really just hammer the same point home chapter after chapter after chapter. And if you start to realize that that's redundant and reoccurring and just more examples, just move on, right? That's actually one thing that I've learned about one of the books I'm going to cover here. So first and foremost, the book that changed my life and changed my perspective on not only money, but just different things and becoming significantly open-minded was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Highly, highly recommend this book. It talks a lot about just finances in general, shifting the way that you view money, shifting the way that it needs to be moved around, starting businesses, talking about real estate, talking about passive income. I know this book is a heavy hitter for a lot of people. I've actually read this multiple times. And biggest takeaway from this book is instead of shaping your words of how, or I can't afford it. A lot of people say that I can't afford to do X, Y, Z. I can't afford to buy this. Change the way that you talk to yourself and change the way that you're saying that statement into how can I afford it? What that's going to do is open your mind to creativity. It's going to open your mind to different ways and different things that you can do and enact and put into your life to go out and find a way to earn money or save money or get creative with money with personal finance. Here's an example of that. We have bought and sold real estate without any of our own money. So instead of sitting here and saying, hey, I can't afford to buy this house, how can I afford it? Talk to people, because we are going to bring the elbow grease, take the action, talk to the seller, do all the hard work, right? We just went to a private money lender and said, hey, do you want X amount of percentage on your money for doing nothing? And we'll pay you every single month. They have the money. We have the skill set. We put that together. Everyone was able to win. So we created money out of not having our own. Super huge. Tons of ways to get creative with this. Read this book to expand your mind. Number 2, The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. The takeaway from this book was exactly what I expressed. The way that I learn now is not necessarily reading a book start to finish. If I've gotten the point of the book in the beginning, I will literally just put it off to the side. I understand it. If I get bored, a lot of this happens. People try to read a ton. They get stuck in a book because it gets boring and they are no longer actively learning anything from it. So I'm sure that's probably happened to you. Just move on to the next book. I'm actively reading like 8 or 9 books at a time just because they all have different ideas and it all depends on what I'm interested on. So I'm reading I'm reading to actually learn and take something away, and I enjoy it, versus just reading for the sake of it and trying to get to the end, because that is not the point. The point is to actually take something away. Also, when it comes to money, this whole book is about um, being, being wealthy, being healthy, being happy, right? And it's huge. It's actually not written by Naval Ravikant. He is a investor and a philosopher, and it's basically made up an organized way of all the quotes that he's had from podcasts that he's been on and different tweets and stuff that he has done. So talks about different ways to make money, talks about the importance of compounding your money, and talks about how money is simply just a form of an IOU. And that is something that I remember very heavily from that book. It's just, when you are getting paid to do something, it is in exchange for you to go and utilize that money in some other way, shape, or form, however you want to. It's just an IOU, right? So it's a transfer of IOUs with credits. Number 3, The Richest Man in Babylon. Love this book. A lot of takeaways from this book is a very simplified budgeting system, right? And it always talks about paying yourself first and how you are going to pay yourself 10% out of every check that you get. You apply that towards some sort of investment, you apply that towards some sort of savings, and you take that, and that, regardless of what else you have going on, you put that towards something. Also, this helped me pay off debt significantly faster. I used a percentage of my income every single time I got paid to pay off debt. Highly recommend this, especially if you are a contractor and you're paid not necessarily consistently. It will obviously work too if you're on a salary or a consistent monthly income, but this will help you take a look at your budgeting and how you can improve that. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. This one is exactly what it says, right? Compounding not only interest, but compounding habits, right? And a lot of the times, a lot of people don't realize their good and their bad habits have a compounding effect. If you do the same thing day after day after day after day, it's going to compound over 90 days. If you look at two people and one of them has a certain savings habit and the other one has a spending habit, right? Over 90 days, over 180 days, over a year, over 2 years, over 5 years, if they're doing those same things, they're going to grow further and further and further apart. Same thing with health, right? If you are really healthy and you're on top of your habits, you go to the gym every day, after 5 years, you're going to look a lot different than someone who just ate everything in sight, who was a binge eater, who sat on the couch and was very lazy, right? They're going to spread apart. One line I'll remember very heavily from this book is a plane flying from Los Angeles to New York. If the nose of the plane is only off by like 1 degree, the plane will actually end up in the Carolinas. That is the power of compounding. That 1 degree over such a long period of time is going to change the entire trajectory of your life. So even though you're not making massive strides today, doesn't mean that over the course of a year, you're not improving 365%. You are now a significantly different individual as long as you improve those habits, good or bad. Discipline is destiny. Big believer in discipline. It is basically the art of doing things regardless of how you feel, right? When you understand the discipline and the things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis, regardless of how you feel, it unleashes a different level of power. This book is incredible. It's by Ryan Holiday. Very stoic style book. It's a great read, has a lot of great examples and analogies of different things where people required heavy, high levels of discipline. Highly recommend this. If you want to be successful, one of the biggest traits is discipline. It's the highest form of self-love. You need to have respect for yourself. You are going to be in times where you are not going to feel like doing stuff. If you are on a journey to change your life, make more money, save more money, you're not going to feel like it. It's going to be easier to want to eat out, right? But if that doesn't fall into your budget, or if that doesn't fall into your health with what you want to do, you need to maintain being disciplined in that. And ultimately making that decision time over time correctly, you're going to find your destiny. So hopefully you guys are able to take something away from this. Excited to have this one in the module, excited to spark some conversation. Maybe some of you guys have never heard of these books. I highly recommend them. One source that I always use, Spotify has a lot of audiobooks for free with their updated premium package. And number 2, Scribed. It is $10.99 a month, I believe, and it has unlimited ebooks that you can download. So check it out. Check out those resources. Check out these books and let me know what you think, and enjoy. We'll see you on the next video.